Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, May the 22nd, and Northwest Flow is entering back in the picture, and that is going to be the culprit to bring showers and thunderstorms, and some of those will likely turn severe. And we'll be watching some heavier rain that will likely form by the time we head into Sunday. But a chillier air mass is locked over a good part of the Northeast, and you're just going to experience a chilly rain. And then I think by Monday, getting into Tuesday, a lot of that cooler air will finally actually settle down all the way down into the south. So we take a look at the water vapor imagery this morning, and yes, unfortunately, those areas into the desert southwest will continue to remain dry. It's just a dry flow that's coming off with that southwest wind, and much of the deserts and even into the south, it's just been experiencing some much cooler, more pleasant, less humid air. But there's a warm front that's going to be lifting back north today, and that's going to link up with a stalled front around Oklahoma. And by the time we head into this afternoon, we're probably going to see some showers and thunderstorms start to bubble up, and that will traverse down the northwest flow. But further to the northeast, you can see all the clouds and darker colors. That is your heavier rains and also some cooler temperatures. It is downright chilly this afternoon and heading into tomorrow. These are actually high temperatures as we head into this afternoon. I mean, look at this, folks. Widespread 40s for a good part of Pennsylvania, New York, but down into Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I mean, there's going to be a low pressure center that's just going to be sitting and spinning all day long, dumping some heavier rains, and then that chilly rain. I mean, those are 40s, folks, even low 40s. Afternoon temperatures. You're going to be feeling that in a big way. There's the low pressure center. It actually deepens. This is a little bit of a form of a nor'easter, if you will. That takes effect today and going into the overnight tonight. But some of these areas could actually pick up several inches of rainfall and a chilly rain. And yeah, look at that, folks. That is even a little bit of snow. I mean, we're talking, this is late May heading into June, and we are still talking about at least some snow up there into Vermont and New Hampshire as the cooler air will filter in as you get deeper into the evening time frame. In fact, if you take a look at some of the preliminary setups right now, who in fact could actually see just a little bit of a snow. Yeah, it's areas into Vermont and New Hampshire, back into areas of Maine. So don't be surprised. Some of that change-up will likely take effect later on tonight, going into tomorrow morning, and you wake up with a little bit of snow on the ground up there. But there's the chilly air on the bigger picture. So yes, much further south with that warm front coming back into play, and of course all that drier air they're contending with. Doesn't take much to heat up dry air. Basically, where you're dry, you fry, and those are going to be your warmest temperatures all the way further to the south. But it's just a different story to the north with that northwest flow and the pleasant light conditions. And then of course, once you get further northeast, it turns downright chilly in the afternoon time frame. So the overall setup today is, like I mentioned, that warm front that's going to be lifting from the south all the way through Texas, installed in the vicinity of Oklahoma this afternoon. And there's the green. That's the soup kitchen that comes back with the very muggy, unpleasant light conditions. And then as soon as you trigger that mechanism, that's that upper disturbance that aloft with the northwest flow, that's going to kick off some showers and thunderstorms as we take it towards that peak heating time frame, likely going to be crossing the Red River, and then the northwest flow will likely push them into North Texas, setting up some severe hail risk potentially as we get deeper into the afternoon. So the Storm Prediction Center has upped the ante and upped it to a slight risk and unhatched risk. So any of these that form, if you're under one of those cells, yes, not out of the question. You could see some quarter to say golf ball size hail, maybe even up to 2 inches in diameter in some of these isolated storms that will be coming off the northwest flow this afternoon into the evening time frame. If anything, looks like to be more of a 3 p.m. north to 10 to a midnight time frame south as it crosses North Texas into the Dallas-Fort Worth region and kind of weakens as you get past the midnight time frame into tonight. So if we look at the latest setup and some of the future radar depiction, yes, it shows that complex of storms likely form within southern Oklahoma and be crossing the Red River. And then there's the northwest flow. So some of these could be producing some of that gusty winds, that 50 to 65 mile per hour variety, and some of that larger hail. And yeah, it's not really a tornado threat, but you can't rule out an isolated tornado that just may happen to spin up within that environment. But overall, the big picture going into Friday, yes, that is the cooler air just locked in much of the Great Lakes, much of the Northeast, getting into New England. And then you can definitely see the predominant northwest flow, the setup with the ridge building in from the southwest, and then storms start to form off the Rockies here. This is a predominant flow that you typically start to see this time of year. So you've got low pressure highlighted over the Northeast, deepening down to a 997, even going into Friday. So that doesn't go anywhere today. It's still around that region tomorrow, dumping some of that chillier rain and dragging down some of that colder air. You've got high pressure in the middle. And then there's the setup with the low pressure center setting up over Colorado. That forms the northwest flow with these isolated thunderstorms that kind of bubble up and then traverse from the northwest to the southeast. And right now we do have, again, that upgraded risk to a slight risk. Some of these storms could produce some gusty or severe winds and some of that larger hail originating up here into eastern Colorado, got it back into Nebraska, as well as into Kansas. And then they start to weaken as they push further south into Oklahoma and portions of Arkansas. But there's the setup even going into the evening time frame that just continues. So once they form, they tend to stay within that northwest flow and continue producing outflow boundaries out ahead of it and pushing that rain even further south. By the time you go into your Friday morning, Friday overnight setup, it's likely going to be in Arkansas and even in portions of western Tennessee by then. So going into that Saturday, heading into Sunday timeframe, especially, things start to get really active. So you got all this kind of pent up demand, if you will. So if you got the warm front and the cool front that's been kind of stalled up here, it's going to be finally on the move. And when that does, that's going to set up a conveyor belt of moisture. And some of these could be definitely some heavier rain start to filter into Missouri, back into Arkansas again, Oklahoma, those areas into western Tennessee. And we could be looking at several disturbances. In fact, coming off that northwest flow, even some mesoscale convective setups, and it could be multiple ones. I count even almost 3 that could actually traverse across this boundary. That's what's going to lead to some of that isolated flash flooding, the heavier rain. But it's also going to be the culprit to bring some severe storms back on Sunday. And I think we're going to be dealing with that. So if you head into Friday, going into this, next week, we've got some definitely heavy rain pushing in and some of the severe storms that will likely start to come back in the picture. So right now, the Storm Prediction Center is a moderate, slight risk for a little small area, but I think this is easily going to expand, and we'll probably end up with an enhanced risk again over parts of Texas and Oklahoma and back into Missouri, as well as into Arkansas with that system coming down. So I think things get really activated, especially into Sunday, and then especially into Sunday night in the overnight hours. So not only a flash flooding concern, but a severe storm risk, and likely all 3 modes associated with those storms as they continue from the northwest down to the southeast. But overall, if you sum it up over the next 5 to 7 days, yeah, you're looking at some heavier rains. I mean, yes, the areas that definitely need it the most, unfortunately, you're just not going to get it. But this is a bona fide northwest flow setup, and as you can see, once you get east of the Rockies And as that, tap into some of that higher dew points, and obviously this air mass is pretty saturated, the saturated soils. And so, yeah, we could be looking at, unfortunately, another 4 to 6 inches of rainfall, not out of the question in Missouri, back into eastern Kansas here, as well as into northeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, western Tennessee. Seems like the same areas get hit time and time again, and they'll be pushing some of those heavier rainfall totals back into another 2 to 3 inches into the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and even further south where they really need it more, down in central Texas, down towards the Austin region, can't roll out 1 to 2 inches of rain. And of course, you got the heavier rains where the nor'easter is going to play a part over the next, today and get back into tomorrow. So yeah, you could be picking up some 1 to even some 3-inch totals by the time the calendar hits early next week. And then I think by the time we head into that Memorial Day, especially Memorial evening, a lot of people are going to be feeling that chillier, cooler air, as the muggier air will push out. The cooler air will filter in. Once that cold front passes your area, the pleasant light conditions filter in. So that's likely on Monday night, especially heading into Tuesday night. Yes, a good part of the central and eastern 2/3 are going to be easily 10 to 15 degrees below average, and it's going to be feeling, cooler for at least May-like a standard. So that's definitely something to kind of look forward to, because we all know what's coming. Summer is actually starts, meteorology summer starts getting into June the 1st. So yeah, it's not that far away. We know the temperatures are going to be warming up big time, and once they do, it's not really going to go anywhere, right? So enjoy this cool down while we have it. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update while I protect you before and after the storm.